Wow. Wow, celebration. They rock the house, don't they? Oh my gosh. Mm, mm. And I don't know about you, but I want to be set on fire from the inside. Don't you? Oh my gosh. Set me on fire from the inside. The title of the talk today is Waking Up. And it, of course, as Brian said, it's from Robert Brummett's book, Birthing a Greater Reality, and it's chapter 5. And if you're in a spirit circle, you're studying that chapter this week. So it's called Waking Up. And I mean, we all woke up this morning, right? So why do we need to learn to wake up? Yeah, we even woke up an hour earlier, right? It's called waking up because it's the spiritual essence of who we are that needs to wake up. See, the reality of who we are, we're spiritual beings. That's the reality. And that's what we want to wake up. And that's what this chapter is about. That's what this talk is about. We're going to talk about meditation a little bit. We're going to talk about mindfulness a little bit. And you know that word mindfulness, that really gets me. It's like, okay, when I'm mindful, I'm supposed to like still my mind. So why is it mindful? Shouldn't it be like mindless? I'm not sure, but it's called mindfulness, so we'll just go with that. So why do we need to wake up? Okay? Well, one of the chief reasons is that we are working with inaccurate or incomplete information. See, Jesus, the Christed being, he told us, these things that I do, you can do, and greater things can you do. Now, he did not tell us in 50 lifetimes, you'll be able to do maybe some of the things I do. No, he said, you can do. He was talking to the people of his time. And the disciples, they believed him. They were in his energy. They were doing his practices, and they were healing as well. All you need to do is read the Acts of the Apostles. I mean, in there are lots of stories of the disciples healing. But we're not doing that so much today. The message has been changed. And this is the same thing with many of the messages. With Jesus the Christ, the message came, it started as you can have an enlightened consciousness, and now today most of the world believes about him that he's the sole savior of humanity. The Buddha, he gave us meditation as a way to awaken, and today we see meditation as, it's a good way to relieve stress. The Hindu gods and goddesses, originally they were representations of different areas of your body when you were awakened and what you would see. And today, they're like a symbol that you might put it on your desk if you needed a little more wealth, or if you might want to have some of your obstacles removed. And then yoga. Yoga originally was about sacred geometries, that you put the body in certain geometries, and it allows the energetic being, who is the reality of who we are, to flow more easily in and through the physical body. But what yoga has become today is just a form of exercise. And if it's hot, it's better. So if we want to be enlightened, we need to get back to the original meaning, what these people were originally trying to tell us. We are spiritual beings, so why don't we know this? Well, we have something called the mind. We think we're the mind, we identify with the mind, and the mind is run by the ego, which is, I also like to call it the protective personality. Of course, we had to be protected, right? Somebody on the playground said something nasty to us, and, we had to protect ourselves from that. And, maybe our mother or dad yelled at us a little bit, and we might have stubbed our toe, and that hurt. And so then we were, afraid of doing that again. So there are all kinds of things that this protective personality developed itself around. Well, Brummett, in chapter 5 of this book, he says, we are so immersed in the mind and its contents that we do not see it. It sees for us. Reality exists, but it cannot be comprehended by the rational mind nor described by language. Yet, it can be experienced because reality is our true nature. So we can experience it. You know, when I had my calling and Lance and I decided to move to LA, we put some of our belongings in a U-Haul truck, and we were driving out to LA, and I got to drive the truck. And I was a little bit past Tucson in the desert. A good friend of mine who was so graciously volunteered to help us, she was in the passenger seat, but she was taking a little nap. And I was just in a place of utter joy and utter love. It was like I loved my life. I was in awe of how many things had just come together just so perfectly, so beautifully in my life. And as I was contemplating this, being in the desert, all of a sudden I noticed the bushes and the cactus and even the sand itself started shining and shimmering. And then it was singing. And I felt that vibration of singing all through my body. It was joy like I couldn't describe, love like I couldn't describe. Now, nirvana, now that is what we call a unit of experience, but really it was experiencing the essence of who we are. Now, I want a show of hands. It doesn't have to be the same exact thing, but I want a show of hands. Who has had an experience similar where you felt all that love, you felt joy, you felt the grace so purely within you? Raise your hand high. Don't be. Look at this. Look at this. We have these experiences because that's who we are. Yes. They're not paranormal experiences. They're normal experiences because that's who we are. That's why we have them. But we have this thing called the mind. And the practices of the Buddha and the Christed being were to tell us that we're not the mind, that we are that other thing, that we are that essential self. So they deal with quieting the mind. They deal with stilling the mind so we can let the real us emerge. They deal with telling us that Maya is not the reality of things. You know, we are the reality, the essential being, the spiritual being is the real thing, and Maya is not that, okay? So everything we see out here is Maya, right? It's not the real thing, really. So, you know, one of the reasons we don't see everything the way it really is because of the way our bodies are built, and in particular, our eyes. You know, Brummett tells us that we see less than 1/10 of 1/billionth of the visible light spectrum. 1/10 of 1/billionth. Now, that's a little hard for me to get my mind around, okay? I can't quite grasp that. But what I can grasp is that we can barely see anything. And to that, you add to that the fact that what we do see is filtered through this mind, this protective personality, this one that judges this and judges that. I mean, it's a wonder that we get anything right in this lifetime, don't you think? So how do we become the real us? You know, it's sort of like that old TV show, will the real Jane Lane please stand up? You know, okay, y'all aren't as old as I am. Okay, well, the Buddha, he gave us some specific instructions. In the book, Mindfulness in Plain English, the Venerable Hinapola Gunaratana says this: the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha's original discourse on mindfulness, specifically says that one must begin by focusing the attention on the breathing and then go on to note all other physical and mental phenomena which arise. Now, he's talking about mindfulness. And mindfulness is not just about meditation. Mindfulness, you be in mindfulness all the time, right? When you're walking, when you're going about your business, we're to be in mindfulness. So what this says is that we first want to focus on the breath all the time. So I have a little exercise that I'd like to do with you just to kind of give you an idea of what that might feel like, okay? So I'm going to do it first, and then I'll ask you to participate with me. Okay. Now, all of this breathing is done through your nose only, okay? No open mouths. Breathe as if you're breathing in from the top of your head into your belly, and then out through the bottom of your feet. Big Buddha belly, okay? And then breathe in up from the earth into the belly and out through the top of your head. Okay, now with me. In from the top of your head into your belly, out through the earth, in through the earth, up into the belly, out through the crown, in through the crown into the belly, out through the bottom, in from the earth into the belly, and out through the top of your head. Now, this is a method of breathing which will integrate yourself into your body. And the Buddha was saying, let's do this all the time. So every time you can think about doing this kind of breath, it's called central channel breath. Every time you can think about doing it, it will be beneficial for you. So the form of the meditation that the Buddha did also involved this breathing. It involved breathing first and then noticing the body. And because the attention was on the breath and the body, when something came up, the Buddha was able to incorporate it into his physical flow. He was able to, any feeling states that might arise, they would breathe through them so that they didn't become stuck in this body. Now, this body that we have, we're spiritual beings, right? We're really nothing more than energy, but we're not, just because we're compressed energy doesn't mean that we don't flow. This energy that we are is continually flowing through our body, and we don't want anything to lodge in it to get stuck there, okay? Because that prevents us from being the wholeness of the essential self that we are. So that's why we want to breathe through those things, so they don't get stuck. Now, Buddha, he was enlightened, you know. He discovered several noble truths, and the first of those was that life is suffering. Now, that sounds a little depressing, but it's really not. Okay, he did not mean life is a vale of tears. He did not mean life is hard and then you die. That's not what he meant. What he meant was in this human body, we are at the effect of this mind. And this mind is at the effect of the ego. And the ego is always at a sort of a place of discomfort, unhappiness, unsatisfactoriness. It wants things to be a little bit different. We've got the protective personality that's watching out. It's making sure this doesn't happen or that doesn't happen. We don't lose this. When in reality, we can lose all kinds of things and we haven't really lost anything because we're spiritual beings, right? The only thing we can lose, maybe a little, is our protective personality, and that wouldn't be a bad thing, really. So the Buddha discovered there were three facets to this suffering. One was attachment. Now, this attachment, they also call it craving. It's the ego, the mind wanting something, feeling like I'm not adequate, so I want this in order to be adequate. It could be like a new car or a new job, but it could also be I just want to be, I want to be a better person. But there are all these things that we want. Okay? Now, I have to admit, there's something I have been wanting for a long time. It's one of those Buddhist vacuum cleaners. Have you heard about those Buddhist vacuum cleaners? They have no attachments. Oh, well. Now, the second facet is aversion. And that's also an attachment, but it's an attachment to want to be rid of something. It's like, I don't like that color car. I wish she hadn't said that. I just don't like these shoes anymore, or whatever it is. It's us wanting to be rid of something, wanting us to get it out of our lives. So the combination of this craving and this aversion, what these do is they put us in a state of delusion, which is the third facet. And this delusion is that we think that something outside of ourselves will make us happy, right? Whether it's we get something from outside of ourselves or we push something away outside of ourselves, those things, we're looking outside of ourselves for satisfaction, for happiness in life. And we know that that is just not the truth, right? Happiness is an inside job. It's on the inside, like they sang. Wasn't that gorgeous? Oh my God. It's on the inside, okay? That's where we find happiness. That's where we find satisfaction with our lives. So the Buddha gave us a tool called mindfulness. And that tool of mindfulness is twofold, according to this book. It's awareness. It's being aware. Simple, clearly, directly aware. It means seeing things as they are, not as I am, but as they are. And then the second thing that the book talks about is something called equanimity, which means seeing everything as equal, everything that happens in my body, everything that happens in my experience, in my mental world, it's all equal. There's not this good or bad or, horrible and great. It's all, everything, there's an equalness to it. It's just what is. Okay? So these are the two things that they gave us to work with. Now, by being aware of these three facets, and we're able to spot them when they arise, and we're able to realize that the aversion, the craving, that they're not who we are. But mindfulness, with those two things, the awareness and equanimity, that's not enough. Brummett says, we have identified with the mind, but now we are being called to the soul level. Before we transcend to this level, we must fully integrate body and mind. Many today are trying to transcend to the soul level without first integrating the body and shadow elements of the mind. Brummett says, this does not work. See, because of the way the Buddha meditated, because he was doing his breath work and he was in his body, he was able to integrate the transcendent levels that he reached, and he was able to integrate the shadow that came through his mental states and through his physical body. He didn't have to hide from the shadow. He didn't have to name it. He didn't have to make a story about it. He just felt it in the body, breathe through it, give it some attention, and then let it pass through. And that's what we're to do today. Is something comes up like that, we just breathe through it. Notice in the body, oh, I feel that kind of here. So just breathe through it, and it'll soften, it'll pass. Okay, those are great tools that the Buddha gave us, but I do want to talk about another great being, and that's Jesus, the Christed being. What did he tell us to do? He told us to love. He said, love one another as I have loved you. Now, he was not telling us this just so we would be nice. He wasn't. He was giving us a specific instruction for awakening. Love one another. You see, love, the energetic vibration of love is as close as we can get on this planet. It's as close as we can get to that exalted being that we are. And so the more we love and the more we run it up and down our body, the closer we're going to be to realizing that that's who we are. He said, love everybody, including your enemies. Love everything, everybody, all the time. That sounds a little like equanimity, doesn't it? Everything equal, love it all. And he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, I got to tell you, if you're not into loving yourself these days, it's high time you let that go. Because you will not be able to ascend to the higher levels of consciousness unless you do it. See, when we're in that true vibration of love, we're not just in love with someone or something. We are in love. Love exists all around us. We feel it. We are in like a bubble of love. And we can't exclude anything or anyone from it. And if we are spiritual beings, those huge, immense spiritual beings, then there's really nothing we've ever done that's not lovable. So it's time we all started on the inside. Love yourself and let it go out from there. Love is the most powerful tool on the planet. And that's one reason this church is so powerful, because of the presence of love here. You know, you walk in the doors and it's palpable. That's why so many lives are transformed. But love is not a mental construct. It's not something you can read in a book and mentally say, I've got it. You have to feel love. So in the meditation that follows, we're going to be incorporating what the Christed being and what the Buddha being, both of their instructions to us. But for now, I'm just going to summarize what we've talked about. First of all, we're not the mind. We are this immense, energetic being. One in the cosmos. We're cosmic beings. That's who we really are. And we've been given tools to awaken to that fact. Okay? We've been given tools of meditation, of mindfulness, of the breathing, and of love. But we have to use these tools. I'll back up. It could happen just like by accident that you got enlightened. It's happened before, and it'll continue to happen. But those instances are rare. So if you're like the rest of us, you're going to have to practice. But we've been given the tools. So let's practice. You know, it's my sincere belief that every one of us, each person here in this lifetime, if practicing the tools enough, can wake up to that essential self, that divine being, that Christed state. So is that me buzzing? Okay, don't know. All right, well, let's just go into meditation, okay? We've got I don't know what that is. Okay, let's just go into meditation. If we could all just sit down, sit back in our chair, relax. And we're going to start with some of that central channel breathing. So this is all through the nose, remember, breathe through your nose only. And start by breathing up from the bottom into your belly and out through the top of your head. And in through the top of your head into the belly, a big Buddha belly breath. and out into the earth, and up from the earth into the belly, and then out through the top of the head. Now, I'm going to continue to speak, but I want you to continue to breathe in that manner, up and down the central channel. So as we're doing that, we bring to mind something or someone we love very dearly. And we feel that in our heart. We say bring to mind, but really we bring to heart. It could be a person, an animal companion. And as we're breathing through the body, we began to breathe that love that we've generated in our heart up and down the body as well. And we feel that love that's in our heart, we feel it grow. We feel it expand. We feel it expand to a multiple of 2, twice as big. And we're still breathing it up and down the body. And now with that love that's in our heart, we began to feel it spread out from us to the person to the left and the person to the right. And still we have more love. And then we feel the love expand out to fill the entire congregation here, including all of our friends on Facebook. We feel that expansive love as we're still breathing it up and down, but it's also expanding out. And now we feel it expanding even further to this city and state and country. And then before you know it, we're encircling the world with this loving presence that's generating from our heart. Make sure you're in your heart. And you can feel the love. And to now bring that love back. Bring your attention back into your own heart. And feel the immensity of it for yourself. And breathe that up and down your body. And now let your attention go to your belly, where we're going to breathe out, in and out, some very deep belly breaths. We've infused all of this love into the world, into our own body, into our own mind. And we're anchoring it as a permanent part of who we are. And when you're ready, you can come back to the sanctuary, open your eyes. We've been given the tools to awaken. So let's use them. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. And if you like the message, we invite you to like it, share it, and please subscribe.
We are a New Thought church where lives are transformed. So come on, check us out at unityhills.org.
Namaste.